CNN correspondent Nadia Romero watched the debate in Salt Lake City in Utah. I asked if the so-called dumpster fire of a presidential debate meant there was more attention on the wannabe Veeps.
This is unprecedented times with the pandemic, with President Trump still dealing with the coronavirus, not hospitalized, but quarantining himself in the White House while still saying that he's doing official duties. This is an important time. No matter who is elected, whether it's Joe Biden or President Trump is reelected, we will have the oldest president in U.S. history. That means that the running mate could be very important. If that person suffers some kind of a medical condition or illness or, death that could even happen, unfortunately, that running mate would have to step up. So people needed to look tonight, and the American voters needed to see which one of those candidates, Kamala Harris or Mike Pence, could be a president, have presidential status that could lead the country in the direction that voter wants the country led in. This was the most important vice presidential debate, likely of U.S. history, because of the age of both of those candidates, top on the ticket, Trump and Biden, but also just because so much is at stake. This country is divided more now than ever, and people need to know not just who's at the top of the ticket, but who are their running mates? Why were they chosen? What do they believe? And that's what we learned tonight.
So in terms of the age of the presidential candidates, there's no delicate way to put it, the potential Veeps were asked whether they had a conversation with their running mate about what would happen if their president became incapacitated. Well, they dived around that question, didn't they, Nadia?
They did, and they dodged around pretty much every question from the moderator, Susan Page, tonight. I think that both campaigns realistically have to have that conversation. But if we've learned anything about President Donald Trump over the last 4 years, is that he believes that he is invincible. So as Vice President Mike Pence says that he hasn't had that conversation with President Donald Trump, you'd have to take him at his word for that. But that doesn't mean that others in the administration or the campaign haven't had those conversations. On the other side of the aisle, you know that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have talked about that. There have been rumors that Joe Biden is only going to run just this once. And even if he wins the presidency, that he will not seek re-election 4 years from now. So this is a conversation that has been going on since the primaries, when Joe Biden was on that stage about his age. This was a question about President Trump 4 years ago about his age. They've only gotten older, so this question hasn't gone away.
Did any of these two vice presidential candidates really land a blow in this?
I think Vice President Mike Pence had some one-liners, nothing you haven't heard before, but saying, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to making up facts. We heard him with another zinger, but you also heard Kamala Harris saying that their pandemic response was the worst failure in presidential history. So they both came out swinging. What will be remembered is how often Vice President Mike Pence interrupted not only Senator Kamala Harris, but the female moderator as well, Susan Page. And that will be a conversation that you will see being had amongst circles of liberals on social media who believe that people on the far right and the conservative Republican Party do not respect women as equals. And so you saw today the vice president interrupting two women. That is something that is not going to play well for Vice President Mike Pence. Senator Kamala Harris had a smile on, or a smirk, as some have labeled it, and that may not play well for her in the next couple of hours tonight and through the next day. What was hard for Senator Kamala Harris is that, being a black woman, she needed to be on that debate stage and be strong and assertive, just as a white male would be on that stage, but she couldn't come across as a stereotypical angry black woman. So she needed to be moderate in her responses to President Pence, while also being affirmative in her policy beliefs.
So the Vice President is also the head of the COVID task force. Now, there has been more than 200,000 Americans who have died as a result of COVID. This was a big part of the debate. How did he defend that record?
He defended it by deflecting. And Vice President Mike Pence, we saw this 4.5 years ago. We're seeing it over the past 4 years. And then tonight on that debate stage, he is a master deflector. He is very good at not answering questions he doesn't want to answer. As the head of the coronavirus task force, being asked about the more than 211,000 Americans who were killed because of the COVID-19, he deflected and said, well, what about the swine flu and H1N1 when it was the Obama-Biden administration and how they handled that? And they gave us a stockpile that was empty. And we know that it wasn't empty, but that's something that the vice president likes to say. And so he didn't answer a direct question. That was the job of Senator Kamala Harris, to nail down that under this presidency, under Vice President Pence's watch specifically, as the head of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, more than 200,000 Americans have died. More than 1 million others have contracted the virus. Businesses have shut down. And we've seen the lingering effects on our economy from what she believes was a failed pandemic response. It is up to the moderator to ask and re-ask and demand that both candidates answer the questions at hand. We did not see Susan Page press for that, and so it was easy for both candidates to not answer the questions that were being asked.
Senator Harris was put on the spot about her comments about taking a COVID vaccine. She's previously said that she wouldn't take a vaccine on Trump's advice, and Mike Pence accused her of playing politics with American lives. How did she come out of that exchange?
And that was something that Democrats have been accusing the president of doing, right? So Mike Pence was the first to say it tonight, but in previous campaign ads and in other speeches and rallies, you've heard Democrats say that the president is ignoring the science around COVID-19 and it's costing American lives. Smartly, though, Vice President Mike Pence used that line against Kamala Harris today instead of what it's been used as being against the administration over the last several months. He was able to deflect, and he was able to say that that vaccine is something that all Americans are looking forward to. Kamala Harris says that she wouldn't trust it if it came from the president. And her reasoning for that was to say that the administration has shown that it does not believe in science, and she wouldn't believe the president about this vaccine. There has been back and forth between the administration and the Food and Drug Administration that is responsible for okaying vaccines before they get to the American people and the average person can take them. The Trump administration wants to streamline that process, wants to skip what the FDA has called important steps to get it out faster so that the president can have a vaccine before Election Day. Senator Kamala Harris says if it comes from President Trump, you can't trust it. But it does look to some people, especially on the right side of the aisle, that she is undermining scientists and a potential vaccine that could come and save American lives. That is really a question up to scientists. How valid is this vaccine? Did it go through the right steps that we see with other vaccines to make sure that it is safe? But that was a moment for Vice President Mike Pence to push back against Senator Kamala Harris.
And that is CNN correspondent Nadia Romero, who was watching the debate in Salt Lake City.